Some of the wisest men and women of this century and of previous centuries have looked at this whole idea of why a human being is put on this earth, and they've come to the conclusion that we have put on this earth to fulfill our potential by finding our true mission in life. Emmett Fox calls this your heart's desire. What is your heart's desire? Your heart's desire is something that is placed deep down inside you, maybe even before you're born. And it's something that calls to you and sings to you and lures you on throughout your life. And the reason that we say that only 1 or 2 or 5 out of 100 people fulfill their potential in any given generation is because most people ignore the callings of this heart's desire. They push it aside, they ignore it, they pretend it isn't there. They get involved in bills and families and business and careers, and this tugs at them. Sometimes they don't get into it until later on in life. But every single person has the ability to establish for themselves a mission.
True freedom. It is one of the most elusive, intoxicating, and powerful ideas known to the human spirit. Across generations, cultures, and philosophies, the idea of being truly free has stirred revolutions, inspired art, shaped religions, and given meaning to personal quests. But what is true freedom really? Is it the absence of limitation, the fulfillment of desire, or something far more profound? An ideal that can never truly be possessed, but whose pursuit shapes us into something greater. To pursue true freedom is to step into a journey with no end. It is to run toward a horizon that forever recedes, yet fills your heart with meaning the closer you get. And though many will say it is impossible to attain, the pursuit itself becomes a mirror, showing us who we are, who we can be, and what lies dormant within the soul. True freedom is often misunderstood. It is not simply the liberty to act, speak, or think without external interference. It is not just political independence or financial abundance. True freedom, in its highest form, is the total sovereignty over one's reality. To command your thoughts, your environment, your emotions, your destiny. To be, in essence, like a god of your own existence. And herein lies the paradox. People often say that if they could control everything, life would become boring, predictable, meaningless. But this belief comes from a limited perspective, from a state of being that has not yet evolved into the kind of awareness required to experience such power. The truth is, as you grow in consciousness, so does your capacity to feel, understand, and create. Emotions deepen. Joy intensifies, curiosity expands. What once bored you now opens into infinite dimensions. True freedom is not about having everything go your way. It's about being the kind of being who can create new ways, who is not confined to the old, the expected, or the known. Let's look at other forms of freedom, more familiar ones that society often speaks of. There is political freedom, where you are free from oppression and can choose your leaders. There is financial freedom, the ability to live without needing to trade time for survival. There is emotional freedom, healing from trauma so that your past no longer dictates your present. There is creative freedom, the power to express yourself without censorship or shame. And there is spiritual freedom, the awareness that you are not your ego, your thoughts, or even your body, but something far greater. All of these are fragments, reflections of a larger whole. Each type of freedom reveals a layer of the human experience, yet none of them in isolation can give you the full taste of what true freedom means. Fiction has always understood this. In stories, we find characters who rise beyond their constraints, who discover powers within themselves, or transcend the bounds of their world. Whether it's Neo awakening in the Matrix, or a hero breaking free from destiny in a myth, or even dreamers creating worlds in films like Inception, these stories resonate because they give shape to our deepest longing, the desire to be free in every dimension of our being. In many of these tales, imagination becomes the gateway, And in reality, it is the same. Imagination is not just for children or artists. It is the architect of reality. It is the blueprint of manifestation. What you see in your mind's eye, if you believe it, feel it, and align your actions with it, begins to take form in your life. Lucid dreaming is perhaps the closest humans have come to experiencing total freedom. In that state, the laws of physics bend to your will. You can fly, speak to the dead, revisit the past, or create new worlds from thought alone. In lucid dreaming, there is no gravity of consequence, no need for logic, only will and imagination. Many who've experienced deep lucid dreams describe them as more real than waking life. Vivid, expansive, limitless. This suggests that within the mind, and perhaps within the soul, lies the seed of true freedom. The only limit is belief. This is where manifestation becomes crucial. Manifestation is not just a trend or mystical superstition. It is a principle of aligning thought, emotion, and action to shape reality. Every great achievement, every revolution, every invention began as a thought, a vision in the mind of someone who refused to accept limitation. The first step to true freedom is belief. The second is intention. The third is aligned action. When your inner world is clear, your outer world begins to change. But why do so many people fail to manifest their desires? Why do dreams die before they bloom? Because the mind and body often stand as cages for the soul. Our biology is built for survival, not transcendence. Our society programs us with limitations, expectations, fears, and perhaps most tragically, our childhood imagination is slowly drained away by the weight of realism and conformity. Think back to when you were a child. You didn't need permission to dream. You imagined freely, created endlessly, believed in magic without shame. The boundaries between the possible and the impossible were not yet solid. But as you grew, you were told what's real, what's practical, what's allowed. You were given rules, statistics, labels, and slowly the door to true freedom began to close. This is the tragedy of growing up in a world that values systems more than souls. When children are taught to abandon imagination, they lose their most powerful tool for shaping reality. When they are told to sit still, obey and conform, they forget they were born to explore, question, and create. To reclaim true freedom, you must become like a child again, but with the awareness of an adult. You must unlearn the lies you were told about your limits. You must dare to believe in what feels impossible. Some say true freedom comes after death, that the soul, once released from the body, enters a state where it is no longer bound by time or matter. And while that may be comforting to believe, it risks becoming a passive hope, an excuse to wait instead of awaken. What if true freedom is not a reward after life, but a challenge during life? What if it's not something granted, but something forged? To live freely in this life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, is to touch something eternal. It is to walk as if heaven were a state of mind, not a place beyond. To create as if your thoughts mattered. To love as if fear had no hold. To speak as if your words could rewrite destiny. True freedom is not a destination, it is a practice, a mindset, a path. It begins with one thought: I am not limited. And from that thought, 1,000 doors open. Do not settle for half freedom. Do not shrink to fit the mold. You are not here just to survive or conform. You are here to awaken, to remember, to imagine again, to manifest what only your soul can see. True freedom is not reserved for gods. It is the destiny of those who dare to believe they are more than what they were told. So dream boldly, create fearlessly, and live as if the universe were listening. because it is. And every time you take a step beyond fear, every time you imagine something greater, you bring the impossible a little closer to real.